Madam Deputy Speaker, it's a pleasure to follow the Honourable Member for Ayr, Carrick and Cumnock, and I would like to begin by thanking the Honourable Member for Lee and my honourable friend, the Member for Easington, for securing this debate. I thought in particular the Member for Easington spoke very poignantly about the rich tapestry of community organisations that tied together Coalfield communities, and though I wasn't around when the coal mine in Clarivale was open, which is in the Honourable Member for Blaydon's constituency, I spent a lot of my youth going up there to visit family members, and whether it's, the pit banner on the wall, the Methodist Church, the community groups that exist, I think that heritage of coal mining communities is alive and well in the North East, and it's being championed by people like the Honourable Member for Easington. As the newest Coalfield Member of Parliament, I have the distinct privilege of representing the entirety of the Selby super pit, which at its time was regarded as the most technologically advanced coal mine in Europe. The last coal mine in my seat was still producing coal within the last decade, with Kellingley Colliery, or Big K as it was known, being the last deep pit coal mine to close in Britain, with the loss of over 600 jobs. So in Selby, we know a thing or two about coal, and we are living through the consequences of what the industry's end can bring, both for our communities and for ex-mine workers and their families. And I would like to send a special thanks to the Selby branch of the NUM Advice Service for all the work that they do to advance their members' interests. So we inherit a proud past in Selby, but we need to consider in this House the future that we hope to build as proud representatives of Coalfield communities. Because our work really is twofold: to provide dignity, recognition and support to ex-mine workers and their families, whilst unlocking the economic and social potential for future generations in areas like mine, where coal was once king. Nowhere are these questions of justice more pressing than in relation to the mine workers' pension scheme, which so many members have spoken so eloquently about today. Since 1994, successive governments have received over £4 billion from this scheme and are due to receive at least another £1.9 billion in due course. And yet the mine workers who built the profitability of Britain's coal industry and the wealth of our entire nation have not gotten a fair share of its proceeds. Now, during the 2019 election, an election since when, I should note, the party opposite has received no democratic mandates from the electorate, Boris Johnson said categorically that the Tories would make sure that no miner signed up to the MPS is out of pocket. We will make sure all their cash is fully protected and returned. I've looked into it and we will ensure that it is done. That was a solemn, black and white, categorical assurance made by a Conservative Prime Minister to Coalfield communities. It was the reason, very true, it was the reason some mine workers decided to vote for Mr Johnston's party in 2019. It is the reason why some members opposite are sat here at all. And having collected his votes and gone back down to London, what did the Prime Minister proceed to do about those promises that he made to Coalfield communities like mine? Absolutely nothing. It is yet another damning example of the age-old Conservative habit of breaking promises made to northern communities in England and to the British people overall. A final kick in the teeth for mine workers to endure, who have lived with over 40 years of the legacy of Thatcherism and who were faced with the indignity in retirement of being peddled this Tory false hope. Meaningful MPS reform requires a government with empathy and a desire to see that justice is done, and that is why I'm pleased to see the Labour Party's ambition to reform the scheme to provide ex-mine workers with the dignity in retirement that they deserve. But you cannot have dignity without your health, Madam Deputy Speaker, and if I could encourage ministers to take one thing away from this debate, it would be to try and bring greater compassion and greater speed to the assessment of ex-mine workers for industrial illnesses by the DWP. My team and my local NUM branch have been fighting hard for Mr Anthony Rock, who is receiving a percentage of his industrial injuries disablement benefit for pneumoconiosis, but not for his progressive massive fibrosis, which is known to develop directly from his condition. There have been egregious and unacceptable delays from the DWP in the several claims that Mr Rock has made regarding his illness. He is becoming seriously unwell, and I would appreciate if the Minister could meet with me to discuss how we can advance his case as quickly as is possible. And I wish that Mr Rock's case was an isolated one, but sadly this experience is all too common for mine workers across the country. It is time for the DWP to shape up and take responsibility for treating these mine workers with the respect that they deserve. Finally, and on a note of optimism, I recently had the pleasure of visiting the Coalfield Regeneration Trust's business park at the site of the former Kellingley Colliery. They have managed to turn a site where 600 people lost their jobs into a thriving business centre for Yorkshire's SMEs, employing local young people in well-paid and skilled employment. This work mustn't just continue, it must expand and flourish because it has been proven that it works and it benefits communities like mine. And the Coalfield Communities APPG and CRT's proposal to return CGF and CEF funds to allow them to expand their work should receive extremely thoughtful consideration from members on all sides of this House. For places like Selby, our value no longer lies in the coal that's beneath our feet, but in the spirit of our people and the communities, a legacy bequeathed to us by our Coalfield heritage. The industrial pride, the skills and ingenuity, the solidarity and communal spirits that hardwired into communities like Selby are some of the most potent tools that we have to build a better future for our country, both back home in Yorkshire and across the length of Great Britain. It is our responsibility in this House to do all that we can to empower Coalfield communities to realise that enormous potential. And I thank all of the members across this House who are doing incredible work to achieve the same.
Yeah.